everybody. This is Thaddaus Dawson. Welcome to the 10K MA podcast. We are excited as always. We've got a very special guest today, Mr. Mitchell Davis from Pond and Company, Pond Co. Mitchell is also working with the Andrew Young Forever Young Aquaponics Foundation. They're building an exciting, futuristic 70,000 square foot aquaponics and hydroponics facility in Clayton County. Mitchell will also be our special guest at our Outside the Barn series, April the 19th at Clayton County Library, where we'll be talking about urban farming, also passing out seeds from the Clayton County Library. So if any of you all are interested in coming, that series actually starts on March the 22nd. Our first iteration of that will be heirs property training. April 5th will be reconsideration of value and property tax appeal. April the 12th will be careers in agriculture and appraising, the two least diverse professions in the country. We'll also be talking about our updated version of those training utilizing drones and the next generation. And on April the 19th, like I said, we'll be having our urban aquaculture, aquaponics, hydroponics, aqua farming with no other than Mr. Mitchell Davis and some special guests from the Andrew Young Aquaponics Forever Young Foundation. And I am going to slow down and let my co-host, Miss Shani Aldridge, jump in there before we get to Mr. Mitchell Davis. Please like, subscribe, share, and thank you for viewing our podcast.
Yes, absolutely. We're so excited to have Mitchell on today because what he's discussing with us is really important. Things are changing in our world and we need to adjust and pivot accordingly. And so if you are ever concerned with or ever thought about farming, having your own garden and things like that, today is the show you want to listen to. Take some notes and get plugged in with us as well as Mitchell and his initiative, so that you can learn more about having sustainable food within your community and your household. So, Thad, you want to go ahead and get started with questions?
Oh, yeah. So one of the biggest things, Mitchell and I met a few weeks back at the South Conference in Atlanta, where there were over 1,500 participants. And there was a 2-day, 3-day conference for Black farmers or farmers from everywhere, all over the Southeast region. It was an incredible conference. And that is our initiative and goal, because in order to close the wealth gap, well, again, it'll take 500 years to close the wealth gap. So the focus is on improved quality of life. And you can't focus on closing the wealth gap without food security, which is really at the forefront right now with the price of food and the inability or climate control, sustainability. And what Mitchell is working on with the aquaponics and hydroponics is definitely the future. Mitchell has a background in architecture and development, and I'll just let you jump in there, Mitchell, and tell us all about yourself and the wonderful things you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Again, my name is Mitchell Davis. I am an architect, live here in Atlanta. And as a function of that, I've gotten plugged into a number of different developments, kind of regional developments here in the Atlanta and the Southeast. But one of the things that I wanted to do with my career is make a difference and be able to take my son to a project and say, look, this is a project I worked on. It's doing good. Here's how it's doing good. And I think just again through happenstance and coincidence and professional relationships, have gotten the opportunity to work with the Andrew Young Foundation, some of its folks, to bring food security to the Atlanta region, as well as deploy some of these technologies in international capacity, which was certainly one of the ambassador's missions as a UN ambassador. So really just looking to sort of bring this technology to the forefront. Again, there's a lot that's known, there's a lot that's unknown about it. So I want to demystify some of the things. And again, we're still learning. I'm still learning every day about some of the challenges. And I think, that as we mentioned, we met at the conference. That's one of the reasons we wanted to go is I've been immersed in this for the last 3 years or so, but we wanted to to have an environment where we could present this to folks who would ultimately want to move forward with it. And I wanted them to poke holes in it and see some of the challenges, to bring this to the masses. So that was really the impetus for us going to the conference. Very fortunate that we met and excited to see, how we can help and partner.
So with the aquaponics, Mitchell, I know part of that is fish farming.
That's
What
right.
type of fish are you growing and what is the purpose?
Sure. So let's take a step back real quick and distinguish between aquaponics and hydroponics. They are both systems that involve water. Um, Hydroponics, much more popular, is absent of the aquaculture piece. So there is no protein or fertilizer source within that system. So there's a very distinct difference. So our system is aquaculture, aquaponics, where we have a fish house and a grow house. So the fish that are in the tanks, and I'll get to your actual question in just a second, but the fish that are in the tanks, we take their waste, we filter it out, and then we pump those nutrients into the pools, and that's actually what fertilizes the produce. So we are effectively a closed loop system. In this case, in Atlanta, the market for tilapia is greater than some of the other protein sources. Tilapia also has a pretty high sort of yield ratio. So some fish get big, but the yield's not great. Tilapia is kind of a good mix. So we'll be producing and harvesting the fish out of the system, every 30 days or so. So in addition to the main sort of source of revenue, which is the produce, you also have a supplemental source of revenue in the protein source. So in this case, tilapia, it can be trout, it can be eel, but eel doesn't really have as much of a market here in the U.S. So really the two distinct sources are trout and tilapia.
What is the taste like with the aquaponics and the hydroponics? Is there something lost in the process flavor wise?
So, so it's interesting. It's actually quite the opposite. It's a denser fish. It's a healthier fish. So the yields on the fish itself are greater. Um, Sort of higher nitrogen and phosphorus. A lot of the nutrients that you need out of that food is greater in this system, both on the produce side as well as the protein source. And again, we're harvesting these every 30 days or so. So we've got higher omega-3s, omega-6, protein, fat, monosaturated fat, like the good fats. All of those are greater in this source. Again, we're just able to control the feed, control the water temperature. Just everything is climate controlled, if you will. So we're able to produce a more precise product in that sense.
What are you feeding the fish?
They feed they get a diet of fish food effectively. It's pelletized. Yeah, I mean it is what it is. So they're pellets and they're fed and they're just doing their thing, kind of swimming around and eating and doing their business. And then we take that business. Again, tilapia is an invasive species, so we have to take that excrement, filter out all of the eggs, all of the contaminants, and then we're left with that sort of nutrient-rich fertilizer. We then put that into the aquaculture system and then pump that into the pools. And it's regulated. You can be just like any other farm system or soil condition. You can be too high, too low, and throw the balance off. So it does require a little bit of precision in order to get it right. But once it's up and running, generally speaking, it's kind of a set it and forget it. You have to watch a few knobs, but it's not a labor intensive, it's not a resource intensive system.
Are the
Mitchell, that
fish
sounds
mating
like
or reproducing at all?
Say again.
Are the fish mating or reproducing at all?
So that's a good question. And I may get out of my element a little bit. My understanding is they are sterile fish. Well, I take that back. They are producing eggs. I do not believe that they are mating in the pools. I can clarify that, but that's a good question.
Mitchell, that sounds kind of like laboratory. Should we be concerned? Is that Is it laboratory style or?
That's a great question. And there may be some people in white coats walking in a clipboard, walking around, making sure that things are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I think what it is, more so than a laboratory, it's more of a precision agriculture environment. I think
Okay.
again, we've had some historically wet weeks here, which is traditional in the South, but as natural disasters increase, as weather, patterns change, heat, drought, et cetera, we're gonna need to adapt the ways that we've been growing our food. We can't keep doing more of what we've been doing and
Mhm.
expect different results.
Okay.
So what this model, what aquaponics is as a system holistically, is much denser. So we're getting 7 to 8 times the yield per square foot or per acre, I should say, than you would with a traditional farm. So
Okay.
yes, there are some kind of laboratory elements, but
Mhm.
it's not so sophisticated or so proprietary that we can't educate folks and bring this to the masses. And that's one of the things that we're working on now is getting partnerships with the right people. If we don't have people to work in these environments, what good is it? If we don't have people that are interested in learning new ways of farming, what good is it? So that's one of the things we're working on, and certainly that lab grown as you get into some of the protein sources. This is not GMO. This is 100% organic, GAP
Okay.
certified. So this is good quality, healthy food. We're just doing it in a precision environment.
Sounds like a
Okay.
great opportunity for internships for some of our students, Shawnee, to be
Yep. I
able
was
to
thinking the
pivot
same
into
thing.
the agricultural space. And
Yeah.
Mitchell and I have had some brief conversations about it. Mitchell, in your facility, is it 50-50 aquaponics and hydroponics?
No, we're 100% aquaponics. We're not drawing or producing anything in a hydroponic environment. So it's 100% aquaponics. Generally speaking, by definition, aquaponics or hydroponic systems can't be organic because they have to introduce artificial fertilizers. In our case, the system is closed so that it is able to be certified organic in that sense.
So you are producing vegetables. I think that was a question I meant to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Along
yeah.
with
So
the tilapia, you're producing vegetables or
that's right.
fruits and vegetables as well. And that
That's
is
right.
that 50-50?
Um, no. So from a revenue standpoint, let's just pick some clean numbers. This facility will probably do anywhere between 10 and $12 million a
A
year.
year?
A year. Of that, probably six, $700,000 plus or minus is fish. So it doesn't really, it's kind of a nice to have. It doesn't really, I mean, it's factored into the pro forma, into the business plan, but we're not so dependent on the protein source in order for this to work. So the main product by definition is in this case leafy greens. So we're going to be growing baby kale, baby spinach, baby lettuce. Um, that's really the driver for this and
So you
everything.
you extract them before they get grown, so everything is baby. You don't get to get toddlers.
Well, when you go into the grocery store and some of these products that we're going to be selling in some of the grocery stores, you would know by name, but you walk in there and that just has it's got a higher yield, it's got a higher price point. So in this case, the numbers I was kind of sharing, those are going to be, the highest revenue generators. You can shift to different types of produce. But in generally, the leafy greens are the highest yield. Tomato crops as well.
So is that the same 8 to 10 times the yield with the leafy crops as
That's
well
right.
as with the tilapia?
That's right. So in our system, you have rafts or boards. They're like 3 by 6, and they are sort of impregnated with little seedlings. They in a controlled environment. they sprout, and then we take those rafts and we put them into the pools. I like to call them the lazy river. Not everybody gets that reference, but they sort of float down the lazy river and they grow. They get to the they get to the end, and then we put them in this water channel, and then and they're harvested. So yeah, it's really a function of what product is in demand, and so we can shift. And our growing cycles are much shorter. I mean, we've got 20 to 30-day growth cycles for these, as opposed to 60 to 90 days for traditional systems. We're also putting in those boards, as opposed to a dirt farm. You may get 18 in a 3x6 plot. We're getting close to 200, somewhere between 180 and 200 plants in that same board. So that's
How much
the
power
density.
does it take to run your facility? Is it power
So
intensive?
that's a great question.
Does it
So
control the environment? Does it have to be hot, cold?
that's right. So in Atlanta, we've got some benefits. It is generally not too cold. I know folks that were here in January would disagree, but that's certainly the rarity. So this facility in Clayton County will have some freeze protection, just to make sure the plants are happy and the pools don't freeze. So as these systems move further north, they can move indoors. So this is a 100% indoor capable system with the full spectrum LEDs. But to answer your actual question regarding power, yes, there is certainly a power component to this, and I think we would say we're swapping sort of the diesel fuel component for electricity. The facility in Jonesboro or Clayton County is solar capable. So one of the things that we wanted to do long term is add solar to these facilities, just to bring that demand or that load down. We're hovering around 1,300 kilowatts for this facility. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So it's got some power usage, and I would say that's probably the most intensive of the
Do you need
resources
like
that
a
are in there.
backup generator, or if there's a break in power, is that
That's a great question. We do have a generator on this facility, just because I mean, just like your fish tank at home, if that oxygen level drops, those fish can go away. So there are some, we'll call them essential systems, that are powered via this generator, this backup generator. That can be diesel, that can also be natural gas, just kind of depends on the size. But in this case, some of those essential systems are plugged into that. Some of the other ancillary things are not. But we don't have grow lights in this facility, just because we're fortunate. The shading, the location, everything is favorable for a fully outdoor grow environment. I mean, it's under roof, it's under a greenhouse, but it's not artificially lit in that sense.
what?
Mitchell, this seems very it seems very revolutionary. You mentioned your son and wanting to like leave the world better for him and things like that. Would you say this was revolutionary? This is something that's really is new to the way of
Sure.
growing food?
So, we're partnered with water farmers. They're certainly the experts in the aquaculture system. I'm
Okay.
leading the architecture and engineering team, so it's a partnership there. Um, Revolutionary? Not really. I mean, this has been around really since the beginning of Earth. I mean, these systems, when you go into the natural environment and you see lily pads and other uh, plants growing in aquatic environments, they're getting nutrients from the fish, from the whatever is living in those waters. So it's
Okay.
not really a new concept. I
Okay.
think the commercialization of it is what is different. Water Farmers has probably 800,000 square feet under roof in different parts of the world. So compare that with the amount of farmland that exists in the U.S. I mean, it pales in comparison. But I think that we're going to have to adapt and become more precise and conservative with the resources that are dwindling. So
Okay.
being less dependent upon fossil fuels, solar capable. This uses let's call it 90% less water than a traditional farm system. So, when you look at the expenses that are in farming, diesel fuel, water, insurance, et cetera. I mean, a lot of those things, those variables are kind of addressed and taken away.
So do you get crop insurance like the traditional farmers get as well?
So, just so I don't misspeak, I don't think that the buildings are insured in this case. I don't think that there is crop insurance on this particular facility. Again, we're still in construction and we're still waiting to get operational in this one. So I don't want it to lead you down a path, but the environment is such that we have minimal yield. I think we're producing anywhere between 97 and 98% organic produce day one. So, or, day 30 once we're up and running. So,
So you got a high turnover, so it's
that's right. Yeah, we're
very
able to,
unlikely that you won't be able to turn something over, so the risk isn't
that's
as
right.
great.
Yeah, I think we're planning, it kind of depends on some things, but we're planning at least 18 harvests a year, which is just in that sense, it's revolutionary. Just the
It's
ability
like you're
to
harvesting every other week.
pretty much, pretty
One of the
much.
things since we met and I started doing some reading and research, and it's just I didn't realize some indigenous cultures as well as African cultures use fish for fertilizer.
That's great.
So that was kind of amazing, and that to sort of bring that all together. Is there any AI involved with this technology at all?
So that's a good question as well. There, there are opportunities for some robotic maintenance of vine crops, et cetera. In this case, and there's probably some AI in some of the pieces of equipment, but in terms of the life cycle, effectively, no. I mean, it's not a resource intensive from a human perspective system. I mean, I think our facility will have four, maybe five people, depending on kind of the growth cycle. So it's not a large demand on human capital or human interaction, but we're able to sort of monitor and maintain the precision just through systems and pumps and filters and things like that. We're not sitting back here in a dark room with some robot running the system by any means.
How much space do you need for this to be a profitable endeavor? Like, can a small guy or small farmer do this? It's obviously you can do it in an urban setting, but at what point, with those numbers, those are some outstanding return numbers. And I know when we talk, I mean, shoot, you got contracts for the next 10 years. So is there, is that going to breed competition in this space? And what does the future look like?
It'll certainly bring competition. I mean, we would hope. I think this is going to be revolutionary in the sense that, I mean, even let's call it 100 years ago, we weren't shipping products from, generally speaking, we weren't shipping products from Washington State to Atlanta. We were growing and eating what was in season and around us. With this, we can effectively control some of the seasonality in terms of the greens. So it becomes a year-round production facility, which is great. But we're also able to supply. I mean, in this case, we've got some commitments, but we're able to supply the local sort of demand for healthy, nutritious, leafy greens and tomatoes and other produce that is suitable for this environment, strawberries, et cetera. So your actual question was what sort of scale or system is needed for sort of the small guy? At this scale, probably a half acre to an acre is a good module. There's some resources and some parts and pieces that are needed to prop up a facility that's producing in the half acre to acre module. You can scale off of that But smaller than that, you're sort of diminishing the ability to reap the benefits of you're having to purchase this equipment and get all these systems in place, but your yield is down here, and it's really not that expensive comparatively to add additional half acre modules and produce significant quantities of food.
What's your distribution radius?
So this particular facility, it's in Atlanta for a couple reasons. So Ambassador Young is in Atlanta. The foundation is here. Atlanta's got the busiest airport in the world. So for folks to be able to fly in, see this facility, see this technology, and then go back to where they came from, I mean, that's the intent. And that's sort of the humanitarian component of Ambassador Young's vision. And that's my interpretation of it. He would probably tell you something slightly different, but effectively feeding the world and providing some food security for those folks is really what he's doing.
And so you will be traveling the world setting up these facilities for people.
So Water Farmers is, we're hoping to be their partner here domestically as we sort of call it prototype and then start to replicate these facilities in the U.S. And we want to do so. That's one of the reasons we went to the South Conference is we want to present this and we want farmers to poke holes in it and say, I can't do this because X, or this is going to be cost prohibitive or whatever it is. So we want to figure out what those weaknesses are so that we can refine the model, almost package it up, and then start to sort of market that to farmers who frankly have been doing things pretty much the same way for a long time. And we want to introduce some new ways for them to make revenue and provide for their families, provide for their communities. And it doesn't require kind of a wholesale conversion of their entire farmland. They can say, you know what, I'm going to take an acre or two, prop up a facility like this. Yes, it's going to be capital intensive, but it provides a level of security and control over that produce and those products.
What lends itself best to fruit and vegetable wise to be able to grow in that type of environment? And is there anything that you can't grow?
I would say, yeah, there's certainly some things that you can't grow. Some fruits and vegetables just aren't well suited for it. I would say things that grow north out of the ground are better suited. Again, the yield and the profit on leafy greens is kind of where it's at. We're able to produce over 500,000 pounds of food just in this one facility. It's just the yield is incredible.
That is
So
incredible.
yeah, it is. And again, you walk into tomatoes are going to be also something that is got a high yield. They're in demand. But again, the leafy greens and they don't travel well. And so if you're having to grow them somewhere and put them on a truck and then ship them somewhere else, it just introduces the opportunity for damage and for loss. If we're able to grow, one of the expressions I use from a business standpoint is grow where you're planted. And if we're able to produce and distribute locally, it's just a better product. It's a healthier population. Just all things. It's again outside of the cost and some of the other sort of nuances to get this facility up and running. The downsides are minimal.
How
Mitchell,
many facilities are there going to be that are 70,000 square feet or the size of facility that you're doing?
That's right. So the 70,000, we're actually call it an acre under roof. We've got a fish house, which is about 14,000 feet. And then we've got a head house, a production sort of packaging. There's a little office component that's under 10,000 feet or so. So that 70,000 is that, call it a 1 acre module. Pretty soon after we drop this facility up here in the next couple of months, we're going to replicate phase 2 or replicate phase 1 in phase 2. So we're gonna mirror it effectively and add another acre production and then another additional fish production facility. So you have a marriage between the greenhouse and the fish house. So there's a certain amount of fertilizer and just everything that's needed to run those facilities. So those modules kind of replicate with one another. And again, these are not traditional sort of stick-built buildings. They're metal buildings, similar to agriculture needs. So they're sophisticated equipment inside of them, but it's not a proprietary building type or anything like that. So they're very, I mean, they're able to be purchased off the shelf, if you will. So it's not nuanced in that sense.
What kind of clear ceiling height do you need? Can you put them in a container, or is it you need natural sunlight coming in?
So for the fish house or for the greenhouse?
Both.
Either. Okay. For the fish house, they don't really care. It's more just the ability to get in with forklifts and get the equipment around and sort of harvest the fish and then get them to the loading dock. Sorry, I got a notification. We're probably at, pulling from memory, probably 12, 13 feet in the center. We just got a single gable running down the length of the facility. I think we're probably 10 feet or so on the edge, and then probably 12 or 13 feet in the middle, something like that. So it's not a tall facility. It's not, like a high tunnel system or anything like that. It's a, again, pretty low slung metal building. In the greenhouse, it's a little different just because the greenhouse that we've chosen has some technology and some sophistication where we're able to kind of close it off, open it up, and so each of those layers kind of stack, and so there's a little bit more height in the greenhouse, and it actually rests on the pools. So as opposed to being in the ground with foundations, the pools themselves that carry the boards actually serve as the foundation. So it's effectively above ground, which is one of the things, and this is where I'd like to take it. We're able to prop these up effectively anywhere. Think of a defunct grocery store or a Kmart or whatever sort of big box retail that may be a once centerpiece of a small community. We can take these facilities. I mean, a lot of those are 100,000 square feet or so. We can take this system, prop it up above ground, and convert some of these pieces of real estate into production facilities. Because a lot of those retail facilities have loading docks, they have power, they have all the things that are necessary to run these facilities. So that's where I'd like to
Excellent
see
reuse. Like at
it
one
is.
point, all of the big box retail, the older ones
Repurpose.
were being
Mhm.
converted into churches,
Yep.
and then
Charter
other,
schools,
yeah,
self-storage. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Gyms. Yeah.
yeah. So that's I can add that to my list of highest and best use conversions now. So
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the biggest challenges we've had in this facility have been building the building. Like the system, when it's up and running, is pretty straightforward. So if we're starting from 50, 60% of what's needed, we're really just constructing the pools. We're figuring out systems and some of the other things. But again, it's a system that can run off of full spectrum LEDs. As we move into northern climates, that's what they're doing because they just don't get enough sunlight, and they've got some harsher weather conditions. So we're able to prop it up inside of a like I said, like an old grocery store or the big box retail.
So in cases like that, would you like to add more skylights possibly to the roof, being an architect, or open up the building to get more natural lighting?
You could. I mean, there's certainly there's no harm in that, given that this is an ag use. One of the things from a real estate perspective, we're seeing the heat load through skylights kind of create a condition where we're having to offset the heat load with air conditioning, which is kind of counterproductive, counterintuitive. So there is a balance there. There's some ways to mitigate that, but certainly if you're able to reduce the lighting that's required, you're going to reduce the power load, et cetera. So yes, holistically, we will have, if it is an indoor facility, you will have full spectrum LEDs that are powering and providing the necessary spectrum of light to grow these crops.
So one of the things that you and I briefly talked about is one of the things that I've been seeing and I'm really excited about is ag and rural development, mixed use development,
Right.
with mixed use housing, being able to incorporate sort of a farm manager, fresh food to table model, utilizing the HOA fees and being able to have a mixed use sort of development, bringing ag into the space. So is that something that you think the aquaponics model would fit into as well?
I do. I think we're seeing elements or aspects of community farms, community gardens, et cetera, but there's some risk there. I mean, I live in Atlanta. I mean, I'm inside the perimeter, and the deer have destroyed all of my crops. And so, if you've got something that's not indoors and not in a controlled environment, yeah, you're going to have some risk. Um, Probably not where you were going with this, but one of the things that I think is an impediment or an obstacle to bring this to the masses are some of the zoning challenges that exist in rural locations as well as in urban locations. Mixed use used to be the way it was. You had a shop on the ground floor and you lived upstairs. I mean, that was the very definition of mixed use. Now you have very segmented and isolated zoning types. And if you wanted to come in, frankly, with an ag use into an old grocery store that was zoned for general business or community business, sometimes from a zoning perspective, it's not even an allowed use. So we've got some zoning challenges to figure out. And I think if we can provide a model that shows a level of sustenance and a level of revenue generation and to be able to provide for those communities, some of those rural locations will say, you know what, we've got to have this. This we're not going to survive, economically if we don't figure out a different way to do things. So
I think zoning is a function of the community, and that would definitely
Mhm.
be a community need. You're, you're,
That's
you're
right.
solving a couple of different issues, food security as
Yep.
well as housing to be able to mix those things up. And we can't continue to do what we've been doing.
Right.
Obviously, it's not sustainable. So this goes into our outside the barn model of
Right.
thinking and
That's
trying to
right.
do something different, which I'm
Mhm.
really excited about us being catalysts. I'm excited about our relationship developing further and the things that we've been able to do in the space. We will be traveling again today, as a matter of fact, to North Carolina to the North Carolina Black Farmers Conference. And then next month we will be in Mississippi at the Mississippi Minority Farmers Alliance. They're opening up their first farmers market. So to be able to talk about your product and the opportunities in the spaces, and again, what you started off the conversation with is being able to make a difference. And I think that's what
Yeah.
attracted me to you and us to each other is people being able to come together and make a difference in the space. So I'm really excited about the opportunity, learning more about it, and taking the opportunity to the masses.
I agree. I think that we sort of have an obligation to leave it better than we found it. And as an architect, I get an opportunity to build buildings and or design buildings and see them built and go visit them in some cases. Um, but what is that legacy? What are we doing to provide for our families and say, you know what, I left this place better than I found it. And if this is, and it may be, if this is the way that sort of my legacy is being involved with this, then I can hang my hat on that and look back and say, you know what, I was proud to have been involved with this. Everybody that we've met that has been from the foundation to the community, et cetera, has been enthusiastic about what this means. Um, from a global standpoint, but also, having it here in Atlanta, in Clayton County. I mean, it's not insignificant. So, like you said, I mean, if we're able to sort of package this up and develop a model that's replicable in certain places, again, it doesn't have to be a one size fits all. different demands, different conditions, whatever it is, but something that's adaptable, but is digestible and able to be packaged up and brought to some of these farmers, some of these communities that have been underserved, undervalued, have been oppressed, if you will. I think this provides an opportunity to sort of change that narrative and provide some sustenance that just really hasn't been seen in that space.
And we're so excited to bring it as part of our Outside the Barn series. If you all are interested in coming to learn more about aquaponics and water farming, we'll be at the Clayton County Library on Saturday, April the 19th. Mitchell will be there along with some other special guests. We'll also be handing out seeds from the Clayton County Library, but they also have a seed library. So we'll be talking about all the recent updates and opportunities in the urban agricultural space. And if you're interested, we'll be actually touring the country with our Outside the Barn series on our 1890 land grant tour, which we will be picking back up shortly, and we're building out the schedule and really excited about being able to bring this to the community. Mitchell, I am so thankful that you carved out some time for us.
Certainly.
Looking forward to continuously working together to solidify this relationship. And Shani, as usual, I overtalked you, and I'm sorry.
Well, wanted to remind the audience to stay tuned to the end of this video because we're going to have a little information, some videos to show you, see what Mitchell has going on, and you can see it for yourself. And just stay tuned to the very end so you can see that.
Oh, absolutely. There was we have some footage from the groundbreaking of the
Yeah.
aquaponic, the Andrew Young Forever Young aquaponics facility in Clayton County. And Mitchell, when is the grand opening? Isn't that coming up soon?
It's coming up soon. If it'll stop raining, it'll be sooner than later. So we're working on that. But it's ironic because the rain is slowing us down, and if this were a traditional farm, we would have some significant challenges on this site. So we're hoping to be open and operational and harvesting in April-May timeframe. So would love to have you guys down to the farm once it's up and running. The Andrew Young Food Science and Innovation Center will be kind of headquartered here, so it'll be set up for some community engagement and tours for folks that want to come in and take a look at what's going on.
Perfect.
Well, we're going to conclude with that, unless you have something else to add, Mitchell. Remember to like, subscribe, refer, send to a friend. I am excited about the work that we're able to do. We also have a class coming up on March the 10th with the Atlanta Land Trust and Pinnacle Financial Partners at their office at North Yards next to the Gathering Spot, where we'll be teaching a 2-hour free course on how to appraise land trust properties. That is an amazing way or an innovative way to appraise, innovative way to create affordable housing with the leasehold estate and the lease fee being held to discount the land cost of building and development. So we will be teaching that course utilizing an extraordinary assumption and hypothetical condition. So I'm really excited about doing that. We're doing that on March the 10th at the Pinnacle Financial Partners office at North Yards. Look for us to be advertising that. Our websites are under construction. They've been updated right now. So we got some placeholders going on with the information. Those should be fully up and running and functional here very shortly. And again, thanks a lot, Mitchell. If you've got anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
I want to say thanks to having me on and want to learn more and bring this to the masses. So again, just thanks again.
All right. With that, Shani, I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish this out there since I didn't.
Oh, no, this is good. It was good. I'm glad that we had this conversation, and I hope that people who are watching the audience learned a whole lot from this. And so you can take some things and try to apply it, or just get your mind wrapped around that things are changing for the better. And this is a great idea for us and for the future.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'll see you all later.